So I want to talk about this journey I've been on of releasing perfectionism and how I think that releasing perfectionism, and I think people pleasing and perfectionism kind of go hand in hand. I think this is the most significant journey I've ever been on in my life, and I think what it is it's an unraveling of a fundamental belief that I was taught in childhood and that our society perpetuates, that has caused immense confusion in the way that I've been living my life. And sometimes I really see this very clearly, and other times I get completely lost in the illusion again. Basically, the fundamental mistake is that we need to be someone other than we are in order to succeed. We need to be someone other than we are in order to succeed, in order to be happy, in order to make money, in order to XYZ. That's the fundamental belief, right? You need to perform well. You need to do certain things. You need to follow certain rules. You need to look a certain way. I mean, it's as pervasive as having to dress fancy to go to work, for certain jobs, or having to dress a certain way to go to a job interview. We're literally taught that to get employment in this life, you cannot show up as you are. You have to appear professional, put on a certain outfit, hold yourself in a certain way, make eye contact, smile, act enthusiastic. Are we not literally being taught to be someone else? Instead of showing up as our true essence, are we not taught to literally put ourselves into this box, into this mold, to appear pleasing to the other person? I know I was taught this growing up. I know I was taught that where it was especially the strongest for me was I was taught that I had to get good grades. That's how I was going to get into a good college, and that's how I was going to get a good job, and that's how I was going to, survive in this life. So I was taught that I had to get good grades. And indirectly that was tied to making money in the future, right? Because it was tied to how I'm going to get a good job in the future so I could make money. So this idea that I had to perform well or be perfect to get straight A's. This idea was as a young kid, a young boy, and growing into a young man, I learned that if I wasn't this way, not only my success and happiness, but my survival was going to be at stake, because I wasn't going to be able to make any money if I didn't follow these rules. And in a sense, there's a certain truth to it. Maybe it's changing nowadays with social media because there's more connection, there's more ways to find other people who are being authentic, and authentic people are more likely to employ authentic people, I'm sure. But when I was growing up, there's some truth to it, right? If you show up as yourself, unsubdued, at a job interview for a corporation, you might be less likely to get that job. It's almost like there's something that goes hand in hand about the corporate world and complacency. Not that I can't really speak about that. I've actually been self-employed since I graduated college, so anything I say about corporations or employment is just from the outside looking in. But there seems to be some fundamental tie there to complacency, to fitting into a box. That's how you get those roles and find that success. And it seems to be not only deeply embedded into my consciousness, my subconscious, but deeply embedded into the subconscious of this society. And I think it causes great pain because you've got people walking around literally basically 24/7, even in the privacy of our own homes, because it's that pervasive in the subconscious. We are subduing ourselves and presenting this mask. And so many people are doing that it just creates this fabric of society, this matrix. And my process of growing up and maturing and learning to live on my own and live life my own way has largely been about uncovering this deeply, deeply rooted perfectionism, and trying to break free of it. And every once in a while, I'll make real strides. I'll go really deep in meditation, or there have been psychedelic experiences where I really see all of this, and I gain so much courage to be myself. But then I'll slowly start to forget that pattern of perfectionism and people pleasing, and just that deep habit of pretending to be someone else in order to gain validation and approval. Because of that fundamental belief I picked up in childhood, it ran so deep that even as I was having this realization and having these bursts of courage, that old pattern would take over and I would kind of go back into hiding again. That's really how I see it. It's like there'll be like these cycles of, having courage, going out, being myself, expressing myself, letting this inner light shine from a place of understanding my inner wholeness, and then that pattern will creep up again, and it convinces me that I've been embarrassing myself. I need to retreat. I need to hide. Everyone was right. I do need to fit myself into this box in order to get by, and those are very, very dark times because it really hurts to hide the soul like that and hide the true self. I think in an ideal society, we'd all feel very free to open and express ourselves, because it's painful and it takes a lot of energy to hide the true self. And then it's like we're walking around this society out on the sidewalk, and we're just like, the true self is like trying to burst through, but we're all trying to hold it in. So only like little pockets of light are coming out. And it's just so interesting how we've ended up here. To me, there seems to be some way that social media is changing this, because the narrative is being democratized. Like, everyone can share their own perspective and realizations and journey on social media now. And so that light through social media is beginning to reach more people, and that truth. I really do see that as a thing. But I also see, interestingly, that there seems to be there's a counter force like trying to keep that light in, which is so odd. I almost want to use the word evil. Like, there seems to be some evil that wants to like keep things the same and prevent that light from spreading, and prevent everyone from realizing they can just be themselves. And I think I know what it is, actually, because you go back to this fundamental belief, this mistaken fundamental belief that is embedded in this society, and that many of us are taught, that we're not inherently whole, right? We need to be someone else in order to get that approval. And what does that approval look like? It looks like receiving validation from the outside world, receiving material success, money, receiving from the external, right? And so that fundamental belief is really good for the corporations, because the corporations are selling us stuff and they're marketed in a really aggressive way. So much money is put into that marketing so that we think that we need that stuff in order to be happy. And there's a fundamental belief embedded in us subconsciously as well. Forget about the perfectionism. There's a subconscious belief that's been ingrained in us in this society that we need certain things, certain achievements, certain possessions. The American dream and the way that was marketed is one example. You need a house, a car, and kids to be happy, right? That's success. So there's this fundamental belief that we need to buy all of these things in order to be happy. And then in order to get the money to buy all those things, we need to be someone else. So we're in this trap. And who does that serve? It serves the people who are selling and marketing this stuff. So that could be why that counterforce exists. Because there are interests that are benefiting from people being stuck and people thinking there are people who are benefiting from this illusion. So it becomes really important, I think, as an individual to do inner work. And this is why meditation has been so important for me, because it's been the tool that has helped me the most in terms of cutting through the story that I have to be someone else and that I need these external things in order to be happy. And when you cut through that story and you start to be able to just be with yourself, and literally to the point where you could sit alone in a room for 5 days and be happy, or go a month without spending any money, besides on the core survival essentials, like this matrix starts to crumble in your mind, like down to the crazy advertising that the food in our grocery stores have. It's like, why is that there? It's all marketing to make us think that we need that stuff. What we really need is vegetables. You don't need to put a freaking crazy font and put it in a box. You just put the vegetables in the fridge or outside. And we could go buy them and eat them and survive and be happy. So this whole thing starts to crumble. And then as an individual, as you do that meditation and you go deeper and you start to see all this stuff, you can start to choose not to participate. And at the where the rubber meets the road, the way this actually looks is starting to change your consumption behaviors, starting to change how you use and think about money, maybe budgeting, spending less, canceling your credit cards, etc. Withdrawing from this system in these ways that you begin to realize are unnecessary. And they were just inherited beliefs that were marketed to you, or maybe they were marketed to your parents, or maybe they were marketed to your grandparents. And so you can start to withdraw. Like I said, I've begun this process, and as I withdraw, I still start to panic sometimes that I'm making a big mistake. That's how deep the beliefs that were planted in us, that's how deep they run. And it takes a lot of inner strength when generally people around you are in the matrix. They are also perfectionists and people pleasers and think they need external things to be happy. It takes a lot of inner strength to start to withdraw from that, because you're not seeing like-minded people doing the same thing. So it's interesting. It's tough. And I think that's actually why sobriety, it seems like the longer I am sober, and it's only been 50 days off of weed and almost 100 days off of alcohol, it seems that my mind is able to stay sharp and hold these realizations in perspective. Whereas if I'm getting drunk and smoking weed and escaping the pain of this withdrawal, it's tempting to just go back into comfort, into the safety of hiding and pretending I don't see all this stuff. You know, one way that perfectionism has manifested for me, because I'm a lifetime content creator. And in the past, I never would have allowed myself to take a pause like that in a video. You know, I would be up there in Premiere Pro editing out every single pause. And I still edit that way for some of the other work that I do online, but it seems this journey of releasing perfectionism has finally culminated in this point where I have this channel here and I don't need validation and I don't need to edit. And I don't need to subdue my essence, and I can be here on camera and think and pause, and I don't have to make a plan. I don't have to edit and craft it into this perfect thing. I think what I've realized is that fundamental belief that I grew up with, that I have to be someone else. I have to be this perfect version of myself, and in order to gain approval and success and happiness, I would then be there in the editing process, editing my content, you know, trying to perfect myself so that people would approve of me. And what motivated me to do that was survival, because that's what I was taught. It's actually mad profound, yo. Like, it's so interesting, this arc of progress, because back then, getting so many views, that's what I thought success was back then. Now, getting so little views, I know that there's something that's truly successful happening here. And it doesn't have to do with anything out there. That's secondary. The primary thing is happening in here. There's more of an acceptance that's happening. And I'm really grateful for social media, that it's been able to be a practice grounds for me. And I plan to continue to use this tool for the rest of my life.